Hi there, it's Maria Luz of Maria Luz Online, here with your Friday Astro Energy Report. And as you can probably hear by my voice, I'm not very well right now. I ended up getting COVID, so I'm kind of dealing with that. So I appreciate your patience with me if I have to cough or sneeze, or just for little brain blips like I had when I recorded my podcast the other morning, and I didn't realize I had COVID. But I made a mistake in something I said in the podcast, and it went out. And it wasn't like a huge, horrible astrology like lie or anything. So anyway, I'd be curious if anyone caught what that little mistake was. So happy weekend. And this just the highlights. The sky is telling us to get out in nature with a special person tomorrow, Saturday. And then these themes that I keep talking about masking as a means, to gain approval in the group, instead of sharing your authentic story, show up. And then yeah, well, I'll go into that one a little bit more in depth because I think it's worth it. So first, Venus and Mars catch each other's attention on Saturday, and that's what makes it a day to be going out and being active in nature because Mars is that drive and getting in motion, and is in Taurus, which is about nature, and Venus in Cancer might prefer the seaside, while Mars and Taurus might want to stay on solid ground. And then on the next thing that I see is on Sunday, June 29th, Saturn turns retrograde in Pisces. And I spoke a little bit about this earlier this week in my podcast. And also, I think on the Saturn episode of the podcast. And I think we are being prompted on the individual and the collective level to reflect and find our inner authority, especially when it comes to anything Pisces related. And those things might be water, obviously, but kind of as a fundamental resource to life. And then other realms or things just which are not easily contained, or things hidden by illusion or its evil twin, delusion. And then on Tuesday, July 2nd, Venus and Saturn meet up in a trine aspect. And again, that aspect allows for this easeful flow. And in this case, it would be for working on emotional boundaries that maintain your structural integrity so you don't leak out energy all over the place in the interest of nurturing others. And then on Wednesday, July 3rd, Mercury in the sign of Leo makes an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, which I think is relevant to talk about in some detail, as I mentioned, because of that extension of themes that we've seen since the nodes of the moon have been in Libra and Aries. And the wonderful astrologer and writer Stephen Forrest, in the book of Air, The Art of Paying Attention, he writes about the pitfalls of misusing energy of a Mercury Pluto contact. And I'm going to read that. It's kind of long, and then I'm going to break it down. But just note that he uses the word pride, which is especially applicable with Mercury being at the start of Leo now. So here's the quote. Enormous creative energy can be wasted now in maintaining lies and creating new ones. Pride, which is really only enslavement to the need for others' approval, attempts to sustain a false narrative of my life. It may succeed, then my ego survives behind a lonely wall of disinformation and delusion. In an effort to defend myself, my words and my insights can become offensive weapons, doing hurtful damage to the souls of anyone who gets near enough to me to begin to get the scent of my buried truths. Okay, so I realize that is a lot to swallow. So let's break it down just a bit. So he writes about pride equating to a false narrative, and our of ourselves just simply to maintain status with others. And this is what I think the nodes of the moon being in Libra and Aries have also raised. Are we masking our true selves out of this egoic fear? And then next, he says the outcome of living under the thumb of that mask will be disinformation and delusion. And really, the very things that you might have been applying so much energy to construct. And I just think of the phoniness of social media and the delusion that it serves to offer human connection, supposedly, when the user is essentially the product that's being sold to the advertisers or, those companies that are behind the influencers. So I think, this also brings in themes of Saturn moving retrograde in Pisces, which is when it's going retrograde, it's asking for a review in addition to finding internal authority. So I think it's asking to scan for these delusions of our own making, like how are we contributing to that phoniness out there? And then the next section continues the theme of self-imposed loneliness, which can be a 12th house or a Pisces theme. And it raises the idea of damaging the souls of others. So, of course, Mercury can use words as weapons, and Pluto represents the soul, but it can also pertain to lies as a source of power because of Pluto being associated with all of those eighth house things in addition to power. And specifically, maybe power used in that context of covering up betrayals or to keep taboo subjects under wraps in order to allow the status quo to remain in power. So, that might be if you're misusing that connection between those two planets, especially with Mercury and Leo, there's that danger with kind of feeling like you're above everything and using the power to perpetuate that. So, as someone studying evolutionary astrology, because he used the word soul, I find this serious look at what this type of masking behavior can do to our very soul, like really critical for all of us to understand, and that it's not trivial to show up as a character instead of your real self, whether it's on social media or just, in real life, in order to gain approval or suppress our fear of rejection. And I know that because I lived that way for a very long time. And I totally changed my life, thank God, so that I didn't have to keep living that way. And what do you know? I ended up finding true connection with people once I was myself, and with people who are really there for me and I'm there for them. So, in order for our souls to evolve, we are meant to address that fear and develop our inner authority in order to be comfortable sharing our authentic story and accepting others. Oh, my doggy. For the collective to evolve and thrive. Okay, so I'm just going to try to finish with her. Words and stories are meant to connect us and not to be used as weapons. And the face off, which is the opposition aspect between Pluto and Mercury, it provides an opportunity to expose that false bravado that Mercury and Leo may be spewing forth, and transform your story back to what is really true for you. Uh, that is it. And I'm going to try to sign off while my doggy's quiet. If you want to find more about me, just go to the website, marialuz.online, or my podcast, Maria Luz's Conscious Curiosities, wherever you listen. I so appreciate you watching. And if you want to just email me, info@marialuz.online. Have a great day and stay well out there. Bye-bye.